I always try to humanize everything I do, said Rob Cameron in the dynamic conversation where he reflected on how in 20 years as a correspondent in Prague, the news frontier has evolved within the contemporary communications environment. Coupled with the complexities of the freelance journalism he also engages in, it brings us to the emotional impact of suffering global crisis. The journalist makes it a pivotal part of his career to maintain integrity and humanity in his storytelling. I'd like to start questioning you about, in a world where everyone has a story, how do you exactly decide which tales are worth telling on a global stage?
Right, very good question. I suppose after doing this for 20, 25 years, you gain a kind of innate feeling for what people want to read about or watch. It's generally a sense, a kind of intuition, because you've been doing it so long, you kind of know what's successful and what's not. And then recently, obviously with the advent of social media, you can see much more quickly the reaction to a story.
Especially with your work, do you think that there are some misconceptions around the fact of a life of a foreign correspondent?
Yes, no, there are lots. I mean, the first one, most common for me, and the thing that I think people are most surprised about when I first tell them, is that I'm completely freelance.
How do you decide to really get into the freelance journalism? Because I think it's a big decision.
I didn't really decide, you know. I decided to get into the BBC, and because my career path was basically English teaching, learning Czech, then I got a job at the Czech news agency, Česká tisková kancelář, translating news reports. Then I went from there to Radio Prague, which is the English service of Czech radio, and all those were jobs, like paid salaried jobs. And then the opportunity arose to give up my paid job with Czech radio and start working on a freelance basis for BBC. And it just seemed like such a huge opportunity that I didn't, think too much about it.
Well, circling back to being a foreign correspondent, what advice would you give to someone aspiring to cover international news, especially in regions known for political or social volatility?
The main thing is the language, I would say. I don't think I could have done this job without having my facility in the Czech language. Any journalist wants to be at the centre of a story, and my instinct was I need to come back to Prague. But the BBC reacted so quickly, sending people, when they found out that I wasn't here, they began deploying people from Warsaw and from Vienna. So they moved their correspondents here for that. So.
And how is it reporting under this extreme pressure of these type of events?
Well, I haven't really done it to that degree, not in terms of a mass shooting. I mean, the most stressful reporting I've done has been on the border with Ukraine. Emotionally quite difficult to speak to refugees, especially the kids pulling their suitcases and things. It was quite hard. So that I found quite difficult physically, and I needed quite a long time afterwards to recover.
No, I just say because especially with war of Ukraine, I feel like a lot of newspapers are just trying to be on one side of conflict instead of actually speaking in human terms and emotional.
Yeah, that's true, but I think that's a good example of Ukraine-Russia. I thought about that a lot, and I write about Ukraine-Russia a lot, especially with the Czech and Slovak initiatives to send weapons and money to buy weapons for Ukraine.
I really feel like journalism needs to be human-centered, especially from the past years, because I feel like it's losing the main interest of journalism.
Yeah.
How do you ensure your reporting remains human-centered?
I always do, and I always try and humanize everything I do. So every story, whether it's about bear attacks in Slovakia, or about the mass shooting here, or about Slovaks raising money for the Czech ammunition initiative for Ukraine, I always humanize it.